Hey guys, thank you for tuning in on a bonus episode of Talk That
On the
Talk.
break room.
Hey, look at us doing a crossover podcast.
Cross
Okay.
pollination.
That's right. So, we wanted to get on here and have a discussion because we have a lot to talk about. And I feel like the best person to talk to about this is my husband because he has opinions too. And he is not shy about sharing his opinions. Of course, I'm right.
Shout out to Destiny.
Yo, word up. Happy Father's Day.
Thank you.
And anyways, I pointed out earlier to my husband, I was like, you know that every time we record in this position. I'm always on this side, you're on that side. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm to your left. And then he goes, what did you say?
Of course, what I say. Of course, men always right.
Yeah. Of course I'm to your right because I'm always
Of
right.
course, I'm to your right. I'm always right. That's what I said. What can you say?
I'm like, okay. So anyways, where do you want to start?
Well, I titled this right here, Politico. And the reason why it's called Politico is because a lot's going on in our nation, especially our city.
You know it.
That's very polarizing.
New York still being the leader, setting the trend, you know?
Yeah, I mean, in this week in particular, we had a mayoral primary
Yes.
election. We already voted a week or two prior with the early voting. Shout out to early voters. If you're an early voter, good. Get it out the way. You know, I voted so early the first day that I forgot the actual election date was this past week, Tuesday. But it was a very polarizing election cycle because it was for the primary mayoral.
So first of all, I do want to say, all eyes on New York. You know, as much as people hate on New York, Mike, eyes are always on New York. I've never seen so many people have an opinion about a primary like this. And I'm like, yo, my man, why do you care? You live in Ohio. Shout out to Ohio, but still.
Get in Ohio.
But anyways, so this week, Zoran Mamdani won the Democratic primary for New York City mayor, and he defeated former governor Andrew Cuomo in the primary election held in June. Mamdani is a 33-year-old Democratic socialist and a member of the New York State Assembly.
Yes, he is very young. The 33 said, yeah.
Born in Uganda, immigrated here when he was 7 years old.
I think his lineage is his father's Indian or both his parents are Indian. His mom used to be Hindu. I know his father's Muslim and now he was raised Muslim. But yeah, he was born in Uganda and came here at 7 years old.
Quick fact, he went to Bronx Science High School. Shout out to the
He did.
Yeah, he went to Bronx
That's
Science
right.
High School.
Yeah, I did say that because we spoke on busing. He mentioned that, yes.
Yeah, so he won the primary, which was like a big surprise because not for nothing. If you would have asked me maybe 4 months ago, who do you think is going to win? I'm like, it's probably going to be Cuomo.
Yeah. He's a legacy. His name is a legacy in New York
Name
State.
Recognition, right? Obviously, his father was a very powerful man here in New York. And then his brother's on CNN. He became the governor of New York back in what, 2000 I don't know, 2000.
Something like that, yeah.
Something like that. But
yeah, it's been a while.
But he ended up having to resign from his job due to some controversies because your man's can't keep his hands to himself.
He had smart on his name for a few reasons.
Yeah,
Andrew Cuomo. The nursing situation that happened during COVID of old folks dying,
and the way they played with the numbers to not show the amount of accurate deaths that actually happened.
Yeah. First of all, let me backtrack about this whole election thing. One, when Andrew Cuomo announced that he was running, and not just me, other people, but I took it as, okay, this is his entrance to reingratiate himself back into political sphere because he wants to eventually go to presidency.
Yeah, he wants to go for the White House.
And I think initially he wanted to use the governor's office, but once the scandal happened, he had to step down, took a step back, and now he
waited a few years,
and now he wanted to come back and he wanted to use
New York City
and the mayoral office as a launching pad to show that he's presidential.
Correct.
So I always felt like this endeavor that he was about to do wasn't earnest. It wasn't about the city. It was about himself. It
was a notch under his belt so that he could show the country that he was able to successfully, clean up New York City.
Yeah, it didn't seem like he really wanted to serve.
He didn't want to serve the people that run the city. He was here to make himself look like,
self-serving.
And let me tell you, and this is why I'm happy that you brought that up, because that was my same observation about Cuomo, right? You know what he was going to do? he was gonna increase the budget. Hey, look, the poster. He was gonna increase the budget for the NYPD. Then he was absolutely gonna lower the taxes on the wealthiest people here. He was absolutely gonna go a lot harsher with crime, and he was going to do a lot of business with a lot of companies that have special vested interests in their own interests, so that they could do things like, for example, city bike, right? I know that they want to make this a pedestrian city, but city bike is a little bit of a nuisance in a lot of areas, in my opinion. There's a lot of initiatives that he was talking about that were very vague, that don't really address the issue. You can't tell me you clean up the city, but then you're cutting the budget of homeless shelters. And that's why we have so many homeless people out in the street in New York City. But anyways.
Yeah, so his platforms seem thin. It seemed like it served the same old guard of people of like, status quo, same as usual. It didn't seem like it was innovative in any way. And even his campaign, someone pointed this out yesterday. Even his campaign was, for lack of better words, analog versus digital. In other words, a lot of his campaign was on TV. Dirty ads about Mamdani. I think they even like made Mamdani's beard darker and made him darker. But a lot of his outreach was TV. Mamdani, as a Knicks fan, a basketball season is 10 months. Mamdani was outside at the MSG games, with the crowd, in the cold, in springtime. He was talking to Knicks fans about the game first, and then he was like sprinkling some politics. And I would say to myself, "Oh, I like this guy. He comes to the games, whatever." And this is like March, February, and I'm like, okay. But I thought to myself, he might not go nowhere. I think what happened with Mamdani is, one, he had a great debate night where he was able to separate himself from the pack by his Israel response. When, mind you, why are we asking city mayors about another country? Granted, New York City is the biggest city in the country, and its economy affects the country, if not the world.
The world.
So there is that to it. But, still, you saw a lot of candidates being asked that night, what's your first trip going to be as mayor? And they all said Israel.
To the homeland.
They were glad that Mamdani was like, I'm gonna stay here and serve New Yorkers, and I'll meet with Jewish New Yorkers at any synagogue they choose.
The right answer.
But yeah, he said the right answer, and he separated himself from the pack by having a stance,
answering all the questions and not weaseling his way out of the questions.
So that was his first introduction to a new audience. I think what you're seeing right now is, as Kia laid out, what Cuomo's platform was. This guy over here, Mamdani, Zoran, he was about affordability. He spoke on that. He spoke on trying to get free buses, whether that works or not. He's trying to do free buses. He's illustrated how, like, I want to tax us the same way Jersey is taxed. You know what I'm saying? Let's just match New Jersey. It's not a big deal how they do it, and they get stuff. So let's do the same. Everything he illustrated was to the point and clear messaging. He wants universal child care, which de Blasio had, and that was popular with de Blasio. In fact, I don't know why we got rid of de Blasio.
Anyway. Well, he had a term.
Oh, the term, yeah, we should have extended it, because Trump extended.
Yeah, but a lot of people did not like de Blasio.
I know they did. That's because a lot of people, and this goes back to Mamdani times Mamdani. This goes back to Mamdani times 1,000. A lot of people talk as if they are bothered by social problems, whether it's potholes, whether it's slow cop time, whether it's social goods. But people do not want to pay up for it. People will complain about social problems, but in their mind, they think aspirational wealth, and they don't mix. You want to deal with day-to-day problems, you may have to pay some taxes, all of us. And maybe you got to call upon the rich people you idolize to pay more taxes or pay their fair share of taxes. But you don't want to do that because you want to aspire to be them, and how they got there was through greed.
I'm going to get even deeper than that, Mike. I think people are too comfortable with the devil you know. And this is what I mean by that. People were like, well, Cuomo has the experience. At least I know what he's going to do. Excuse me. So you're okay with the fact that he cut funding for most of the hospitals here in New York City. He cut Medicaid, which affects hundreds of thousands of people here in New York. He cut public school education funds, budgeting. And hello, you're talking to educators. That directly affects us. Not just us, but our children. You cut $1 billion off of public education. You cut funding from homeless shelters. You lied about the numbers of the COVID-19 rates. And then on top of that, Mike, he was beefing with de Blasio the whole time that de Blasio was mayor. So you know what he did out of spite?
What?
Since de Blasio, in order for us to get the funding that we're supposed to get, we need to do a census every year. But Mr. Cuomo was so petty that he cut the funding on the census research so that our numbers could seem lower than what they are, and we got less of a budget. That's how petty he is. So that you rather trust that. You rather trust that. And that's what I don't understand about people, but go ahead.
That reminds me, real quick, on a personal note, I was having a conversation with a colleague the other day about after school funds. And I was being told, this upcoming season, we're not going to have certain after school funds. We won't have certain wipes. We won't have certain activities. We won't have certain cleaning supplies, whatever. I was like, why? Like, oh, well, you know what, man, we don't have funding this year. Yeah. We don't have funding this year for it. I'm like, damn, it reminded me of a few months ago or a year ago where I read that Mayor Eric Adams had cut some after school or some school funding. I was like, every penny counts. And who you elect, it matters.
And isn't it interesting? People get so riled up. People get so riled up about, listen, let's just tax the rich people slightly higher so we can keep these programs open.
God forbid.
For everybody. People get uproar for that. They're like, oh no, you shouldn't want a handout. But when companies need a bailout from the federal government to keep their business afloat and stuff their pockets, people have no problems. They don't protest or nothing. Because, Mike, I keep telling you, people, when they have a problem, instead of looking up at the guy that's making more money and saying, yo, my man, why don't you share the wealth? They'd rather look down at the little guy and say, it's your fault. Mm-hmm. Why do you want me to help you? I will never understand that about humanity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do want to say, because I want to be objective too, right? So, first of all, congratulations, Zoran Mamdani. We both ranked him number one on our ballot because, number one, for me personally, I'm not speaking for you in this, you can go ahead and chime in, but Mamdani, I didn't want Cuomo. That's the number one reason I did not rank Cuomo. I ranked everybody else except Mamdani. That's number one. Number two, although he doesn't have all of the experience yet because he's young, right? I agree with a lot of things that he wants to seemingly get done, right? But I will say, I don't want to be naive. I don't think that we should place so much emphasis or so much hope on one person, because the way I look at it is this is a community effort, okay? And the reality is that Zoran Mamdani is not going to do it by himself. First of all, he needs a good cabinet. Mm-hmm. He needs to assign the commissioners that are well-intentioned and that are in line with his line of thinking. And he needs his party to get in line with him, okay? In order to get anything done. That's number one. Number two, I'm like, damn, man, you want to get free buses, but yo, how you going to get that done? With that MTA, yo, the MTA is a mafia here. It's a mafia. Easy Pass is too, but don't even get me started.
Easy Pass are gangsters, man.
Yo, Easy Pass? They Bloods and Crips.
I understood it 100 years, sidebar before you continue. I understood it 100 years ago when old mafia would come to your little shop and say, hey, you here now?
That's Easy Pass.
I know you need to pay tax and rent.
That's Easy Pass New York.
But yo, my boy the other day was like, he's like, I thought my Easy Pass in New York will be okay in Jersey. Why do I have a $5,000 bill because I have to go to Jersey a few times? You know what I'm saying? Another boy told me I still got an $800 balance remaining for going to another state. Just like, yo.
But with that being said, he has a big task at hand, right? Because I saw him do like a victory speech, and it sounded very Obama-esque. Which, I don't have a problem with Obama. Of course, I have some criticism, but I don't hate him like a lot of people do, especially a lot of leftists do, because they don't feel like he was left enough. He was very much a centrist. But I will say, like, I do admire the diplomacy of Obama, and I think that Zoran does display some of those same traits. But I will also tell him, like, don't lean too much into the performative, like, and I have a dream. Don't lean too much into that, because to me, it also looks like, okay, now you're selling us a product, and you know what I'm saying? Like, just keep it real, be genuine. And I do like, though, that every interview that he's done, because he's gone on a media run this week, he's always well prepared. He answers the questions. He always keeps us. Have you noticed that he always smiles?
Yeah, he always presents, always smiles.
You never seen him frown or be serious.
I saw him emotional the other day. He was crying the other day.
Really?
Out of tears, out of sadness. Because he broke for a second, because someone referenced to him, an interviewer. It was outside, it wasn't indoors. But someone referenced to him the xenophobic stuff that's coming out, like about him being Muslim, about, terrorism, all that stuff.
Oh my God.
And he was basically saying, you'll find it somewhere. He basically saying, "Damn, I didn't realize it. I didn't think we have to do it like this." Like, he was very emotional about, like, don't attack me because of my identity.
Correct, but now let me tell you something.
That's going on. That's going on a lot.
But so now we're gonna get into it, right? Because I'm seeing these conservatives and moderates crash out right now.
Before the crash out, before conservative crash out, CC, conservative crash out. Before we do that, real quick, you mentioned Obama, and I gotta get this off my chest about Obama. Obama was the best president of my lifetime by far. Before that,
I agree.
I would say, growing up in the '90s, Clinton was a great president, left with a surplus. My only issue with Clinton was, like, I think it was weak.
First, because we said in our lifetime, let's name the presidents that we've seen in our lifetime: Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama,
and now Trump. That's 6.
Trump. So out of those, go ahead.
Right. Number 2 is Bill. And growing up in the '90s, you just felt it in my parents' home. There was a lot more cash flow. We were able to be more middle class. We were able to be a little more comfortable than previous years or the Bush years, the other Bush, young Bush. My only issue with Bill Clinton, I never cared about his sexual stuff. You know what I mean? It's not right to coerce women at your job place, but that's another conversation.
At this time, I think at this point, I think we've all accepted that men in positions of power are horny dogs.
My own issue of Clinton, and mind you, I felt this back then, and I was a kid in the '90s. I'm born in '85. My only issue with Clinton back then was don't ask, don't tell. Even as a young kid, I was like, who cares if you're gay? You know what I'm saying? In the military, you should be able to be expressive and be open about it. Like, you know what I mean? So that was my issue then. My issue with Obama, though. And let me tell you something about Obama. He's done a lot of good things for our country. There's things that are being repealed now that I'm like, you see?
And this is all about erasing Obama's history.
Whether it's benefits towards being Black and trying to buy a home, whether it's funding for Black schools, HBCUs, whether it's DACA protection for kids who are birthright or came when they were young to this country, but they're DACA protected.
But the ultimate thing he wants to get rid of is Obamacare.
Obamacare. Mm-hmm. So many things Obama has done well for that I can't even list right now. But there is one thing that Obama did that it almost makes you philosophically ask, what if someone does so much goodwill for you, but they do one thing that you really can't fuck with? And for that, it's a foreign affair issue. Obama did something I can never. It's hard to forgive him for. Basically, he along with Hillary Clinton, and really it was Hillary who spearheaded it as his secretary. He killed. He captured and killed Muammar Gaddafi, who was the leader for decades of Algeria or Algiers. I forgot.
Gaddafi? I thought it was Libya.
No, Libya. I'm sorry, Libya. And he killed Muammar Gaddafi. And the reason why I can never forgive Obama for that, never, and Hillary was the one who really gloated about it and pushed it, is because he was trying to do a continent-wide, African continent-wide currency. The same way Europe has a euro, the franc, and whatever, and they circulate those two, and you can use it interchangeably. The same way you could go on a train and go from Paris to to Madrid or whatever. You could just easily go through. He wanted that. He's like, yo, we're Africa. We should be able to have our own trains, our own currency, lock out any middleman.
Come on, Umar.
And be self. That's what he wanted. That was his dream. His dream was to be Africa as a continent, whether you're Arabic or whether you're sub-Saharan, whether you're dark skinned or not. If you're African, let's go through everybody's country. Let's all work together. Let's just be our own Black Europe. America, and Obama was the leader at the time, knew if we are out of their currency, right now, France gives all those African countries fake currency to live off of. If they reject that and do their own thing, we are fucked financially. The iridium that we use from that. So they effectively took out that plan and the person who was spearheading that. And now, thankfully, today we have Ibrahim Traore being self-sufficient with a few other countries around him. Gaddafi was close to getting that currency for Africa. And for that, it's like, that really hurts. You know what I'm saying? So me and Mitchell Obama, I'm like,
What I've learned about people is that there's duplicity in everybody.
There is.
And I think that you can't expect, listen, people don't surprise me anymore. You need to stop making people out to be like saviors and Jesus Christ and all of that, because there's no such thing.
No. It's no such thing, and I'm not.
And that's not to give him a cop out, but it's just like, look at what he was in charge of. He was the president of the United States. The United States was created as. Well, I'm not even going to get into that.
I reckon it by saying, president is truly a commander in chief, and when you say commander, that means effectively they always got to flex one kill, one military situation. This was just one that really burned. You know what I'm saying? So I reckon the idea that whoever we elect, they're always going to do something that's crazy. Recently, Trump bombed Iran, sent missiles to Iran.
And we're not even going to get into the Israel.
No, but I'm saying like everybody flexes violence. Every president flexes violence. But what I will say is, when I think about the Obama-Gaddafi situation, I think about that Chris Rock joke where he says, America is like that uncle who sent you to college but molested you. And it's like, can you forgive somebody who took care of you but molested you, who looked out for you but molested you? That's just what it is. That's the dynamic you had. So that's my rant about the Obama. But go ahead, go back to
conservatives crashing out, right?
Conservative crash.
It's crazy because when this is a big deal. Because Cuomo ran a very expensive campaign. He had money from a lot of very rich, wealthy, powerful people, and he lost. So right now, the conservatives and the moderates are crashing out on the media. And not for nothing, it has never been this blatant how biased the media is. And as much as the conservatives claim that the media is liberal, we're clearly seeing that the media is not liberal. The media is not liberal. Their big talking points is
they're financial.
Yep, New York is going to turn into Detroit. All the wealthy people are going to leave New York. No, they're not. No, they're not. Because number one, it's not like Detroit, because Detroit was dependent on one industry, which was the car industry.
They got globalized.
New York is the hub for so many. You know what I'm saying? And I know they're like, oh, well, that's why a lot of people are moving to Florida. They're moving to Texas because they're building financial hubs down there. It's not New York. It's not New York. And dare I say, I think that the reason why they're so scared is because they're afraid that, hey, this might work. This might work, and we might have to pay just a little bit more.
Or the rats are getting smarter.
Yeah.
A lot of the response you're seeing against Mamdani comes from the idea that, one, they hate to see young kids get mobilized. And not even young kids, millennials, Gen Zers, people who are finally saying, let me get off the couch and vote. That's what you saw so far. He has a lot more to do this summer into the fall. He has a lot more ground to cover for Black voters, etc. But you saw an energized base that he did, and they can't stand that because they're like, shoot, if they get smart and get out and vote, not the old folks, but the outdated thinking folks are out.
And let me just tell you something. Right now, this has caused a rift and a divide within the Democratic Party. And this is why I always tell people.
Which is already bubbling for a little bit.
Exactly, because this is why I always tell people, do not identify as, oh, I'm a Republican or I'm a Democrat. Because this is not about which party you're part of. This is about class.
Ideology.
And the problem, you know what the problem is with most Americans is that they think they're at a higher tier than what they actually are. Isn't it interesting? You never hear people say, I'm working class. When most people fall into the working class category, what do they say, Mike? Oh, I'm middle class or I'm upper middle class.
It's the Dame Dash thing. I ain't got no job. I'm a boss. I'm a boss, even though you went broke this week. I'm a boss. Yeah. I'm a boss. I'm a boss.
But here's my thing. You think that because you make like $150,000 a year, you make money? Baby, that's nothing. That's a week. That's a week for one of these rich people. You think that you make money? You think, and I always tell people, you think you make money? All right, so if you lose your job today, will you be able to continue to have that lifestyle that you have right now? Most of you people can't. You can't do it.
Yeah. People are not as sustainable.
And that's the problem with a lot of Americans, or a lot of Americans feel like they believe in that dream of, yo, I could break into the stratosphere and become one of these billionaires, right? Which, yeah, you should have aspirations of grandeur. Like I don't diminish that. But I also want people to understand that you're not going to do it by yourself. You're going to need other people to help you. Right? People have this mentality like, oh, it's just me. What was Rick Ross's big thing? Self-made. Self-made, right? Mm-hmm. No such thing as self-made. You're going to need other people to help you, right? And on that journey, you're going to require a lot of help, So the conservatives right now are crashing out. They are using the media to basically have a smear campaign against Zoran. The Islamophobia, the xenophobia that I'm seeing right now. I have never seen the word socialist be as dirty as it is today. Especially the democratic socialists. Now, I will say, I will criticize, like, they should rebrand the name of democratic socialists, because the word socialism is so quote unquote dirty that they should definitely rebrand it. Call it like, I don't know, like regulated capitalism or something. Where people, where if you actually understand,
we're the RCs, we're the regulated capitalists.
Yeah, we're the regulated capitalists. So what that means is, no, we can continue having a capitalist society, but still offer social services, and also make sure that people don't get so filthy rich that they run monopolies, because ultimately that is the power that we're giving a lot of these billionaires. There's a big reason why we're in New York. I can't get Verizon cable because Optimum owns this piece of land right here. So now I can go to other places because they have a special vested interest in a contract here. Like, it's a lot of politics, and we're giving away our power to a lot of these people because we feel like, oh no, I don't want to take away power from them, because that takes away from me if I become one of them.
Allow me to be facetious for a moment. I'm a socialist. You want to know why I'm a socialist? You want to know why? You want to know why?
Why?
I believe in paying cops not on their merits, but of taxes. I believe in paying firemen not on how many fires they burnt out in a month and then paying them out. You know what I mean? But on their merit, but on their tax, on my taxes. I pay teachers not off how good they were in a 10-month school year. Let me get your grade, teacher. See how I'm gonna pay you. No, off their, just because they're living, off their taxes. I pay into Medicare, Medicaid, not because one stethoscope is better than the other. No, everybody gets a flat thing. No. So we all pay for social services in general.
I do believe in merit-based pay, but not for industries that affect the public at large. Like in private companies, like for example, if you work at a restaurant, right? Or, well, maybe that's not a good example, but in other very niche companies, I believe in merit-based pay. But he's right. Like, we should have these services in place and be able to say, hey, it's not greedy to ask, hey, let's make sure that the police are making enough money so that they can continue to have a level of integrity, and that they don't have to do side hustles to make extra money on the street because they don't make enough money.
When World War II happened, we didn't say, hey, you didn't really kill Hitler yourself, so we're going to take off some deductions from your check. Yeah. No, we pay all the military the same rate, or not the same rate, but we all pay the military through taxes, and say you are all going to be socially paid for.
You call yourself a socialist? I call myself a humanist.
No. I'm being facetious, but I do believe in the idea of regulated capitalism. I do believe in that. But I definitely also believe in some social goods and social services. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely. But that's what I'm saying, because the regulated capitalism will make sure that there is some form of cap at the top, so that it can prevent monopolies from occurring, and having like people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos that are literally like just destroying so many small businesses and have so much power. Like, no one man should have all that power. Damn, I hate that I just quoted Kanye.
Damn.
But I just did that. I'm sorry. But it does fit. Like, and we're doing that. We're doing that because we think, no, we're going to be like them. No, do you know the crazy shit they have to do to get to that? Are you willing to do that? A lot of people are. But I'm a humanist. I believe in community. I believe in helping each other out. I believe in doing the right thing, and I think that we shouldn't put the responsibility on one person to do the right thing. We should all be the change that we want to see, right? If I support somebody like Mamdani, it doesn't just mean, show up in the primary. It also means show up in the midterm elections. It also means supporting a lot of the initiatives that he's doing. But more importantly to me, it's about continuing the work in the community, which is helping out your neighbor, making sure that the youth has resources and things to do on their free time, that they're getting the correct education. There's so many things that are even more important than just going out there and doing your civic duty, in my opinion. It's about community. At the end of the day, all we got is us. And the problem is that a lot of people, and let me talk about a little bit about a lot of people move to New York for economic opportunity. Yet a lot of people also leave because of affordability and also because of space. They want more land, right? Mm-hmm. People want houses. People want their space. And there's really no space here. That's the real reason a lot of New Yorkers leave, right? But then I also find that there's also a lot of New Yorkers that they want a lot more bang for their buck, but then they don't do anything. They don't contribute anything back to the city. And what do I mean by that? Either the rich, either they don't want to pay more taxes, and then the poor, they use social services, but then they don't try to advocate for a lot of the centers and the businesses and the places that are helping them get by through day in and day out. Like, I always, like, it's like this for me. A lot of people, if their man's is opening up a company, let me get a discount. Mm-hmm. My thing, if that's your man's, not only should you pay full price, but you should also promote it. But a lot of y'all get mad because y'all want the discount because that's your man's. Why? Support your man's. Pay the full price and advocate and promote it.
Everybody want to hit a lick.
Everybody's just greedy.
Greed is good.
But anyways, I would tell Mamdani, you have a big task at hand. You got to stay strong. I want you to continue having this level of energy. I will say, like, you have impressed me.
Keep it going.
You've impressed me. Keep it going. And I also want to say something.
Don't fold.
And for the Democrats out there that are still unwilling to endorse Zoran right now, I hope y'all get primaried. Christy Gillibrand, Richie Torres, which is the other one? Swazo or something? Swazo? Yo, get out of here.
And a lot of people were late to the
party. Kathy Hochul, out of here.
A lot of people were late to the party. The day after Elizabeth Warren endorsed him, the day after Chuck Schumer, I guess, sort of.
Chuck Schumer's
another one.
You are perfidious, Chuck Schumer.
It's funny.
You're perfidious. Do you know what that means?
You know what's funny?
It means not true in one's allegiance, unable to be trusted, and deceitful.
Prometheus. That's a movie.
Oh my God, myself.
But you're seeing a lot of people are late to the party. You know, a month or two ago, David Hogg is a young man from Palm Beach County in Florida. He was a former victim of that school shooting that happened in 2018 or 2017. And ever since that school shooting, he was motivated to get into politics. So now he's an adult. And he was part of the Democratic something. And I think he left his chair because he, for the past few months, he was on Breakfast Club, he was on Bill Maher. He was saying, people were saying he was an ageist. I don't think he was an ageist. But he was saying, like, yo, there's a lot of people out there who have been cushy in their seats for a long time that don't want to, don't want to give up their seat or stay in their seat but be progressive. They're comfortable, but they're not doing much with their seat. And people were like trying to like oust him over it. And I think they kind of did. They kind of ousted him out of his seat. So he was up here in New York, even though he's a Florida native, he was up here in New York campaigning for Zoran. So he stood on the front lines early. Shout out to Jamal Bowman on the front lines.
Shout out to Jamal Bowman. Shout out to Chi-O-Say.
Reggie would be proud of you.
Every time I see him, I get teary-eyed.
Comment would be proud of you. Listen, I always thought she was cute. AOC.
Oh man.
First of all, let me not speak on her first because of her looks. It's terrible.
Thank you for recognizing
She is a classy, dignified, hard-working, gutsy young woman. I've been impressed with her from the get-go when she first got on the scene. Not just her, but the whole crew that they try to bunch her with. The Boston Congresswoman, Leon Omar, the Muslim woman, Rashida Tlaib. You know, there's a name for the four of them. I forgot what they call it. The crew or something like that. Mm-hmm. They always try to demonize those four women. I want to say to all those four women, especially AOC, keep pushing the good fight. Now,
but we got to support them.
And I do support them. So, and mind you, Ileana Omar, who they all hate because she's like Muslim, she's from Sudan, I think it is, or something like that, and she goes hard. She's a big boxing fan, so she'd be on Twitter talking to us about boxing. With that being said, AOC, not for nothing, in the last few months, Jesus, like she is the epitome of what a lot of dudes say, or at least not a lot of dudes, but some dudes say, and I've always felt this way. When women get in their 30s, into their 40s, especially their 30s, they look even better.
Thank you.
There's this idea, there's this notion that women in their 20s are the young girl or whatever.
I think the prime for a woman is definitely like 30s, late 30s.
And someone said this to me, and I was like, someone said this to me in front of a young man, and I was like, he's right. Someone older said, not older, he's like my age range. He was like, yo, women look prettier after they give birth.
Yeah.
And I was like, I said to the young guy, listen to him, for real. Now, AOC is not a mother, but when AOC was at the Puerto Rican Day Parade on the float with Zoran in that dress, I said, hold up.
Yeah, you're so silly.
And the white guy with that, I said, yo, okay, Chad. I'm joking here. Seriously, shout out to AOC, who's been a prominent supporter of Mamdani. And I single her out because she's already ostracized and polarized by people. So she said, you know what, I'm going to take my name, put it on the front lines for him. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to put it on the front lines for him.
And Bernie.
And I'm going to back him up. And that paid dividends for him, and it spread awareness for Mamdani, and I hope he knows that, which he does. He's gave it up to her. So I got to show her love. Anybody who was there before the party started, shout out to you. People who are late to the party, as long as you come earnestly, good for you. As far as Mamdani, all you said, I agree with. As far as encouraging him, what I would say also is stand true to who you are, because it's about to get darker the next few months.
Woo! I already saw Eric Adams, aka the party promoter.
Yeah, it's about to get darker.
Taking jabs, and I'm just
saying that manicured nails versus hardworking nails, and I'm a laborer. And he's an artist or whatever. Crazy.
This is what I think about Eric Adams.
He's a rapper. Shout out to hip hop, because Mamdani's a former rapper, and his mom was a director of Mississippi Masala.
I love that movie. I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's your mom.
I said, oh snap!
I love that movie. It's one of my favorite Denzel Washington movies.
I said, oh snap!
But I do want to say something, Mike. I'm disappointed in the Bronx. This is why I say. That I was looking at the map of the voter turnout for the primaries. And the reason why Mamdani won really is because of Western Queens, Northern Brooklyn,
Bed-Stuy,
the west side of Manhattan and Uptown. But other than that, Cuomo took the rest. We knew Staten Island was going to go Cuomo, because you already know Staten Island.
I also heard he had decent numbers in Staten Island.
But let me tell you, in the Bronx, with the exception of the heavily Muslim populated areas like Parkchester and like that area, Little Yemen, Cuomo took everything else, especially the Northeast Bronx where we reside, which is like not. And then I looked at the numbers.
Allegedly.
I looked at the numbers, and I'm gonna break it down. The numbers for you, based on race. So obviously, the Asian community absolutely turned out for Mamdani. I got this from New York Times. So plus 15 points or plus 15% more over, like favorably on Mamdani. Then it was the Hispanic vote. Yeah. The Hispanic vote also went to lean towards Mamdani over a 6-point margin. And then the white vote, a lot, believe it or not, a lot of progressives, a lot of middle income people, they really went out and voted for Mamdani. But here's where it goes a little left, and this is where I'm a little bit also kind of surprised. Well, not surprised. Black voters overwhelmingly lean towards Cuomo over 18 points, 18% margin, which is wow. What does that say? Now, I'm going to let you talk about this.
I would say, I look at that as Stockholm Syndrome. I had an old black voter tell me a few days ago why she voted for Cuomo. And she was like, Mike, I only voted for him because I know him.
The devil you know.
I know him. He was governor before, so I knew the name. Which kind of told me that she wasn't doing the research to prepare herself for this cycle.
Correct.
I know him. I know what he's done. And they're all crooks anyway, so I wasn't even paying attention that much.
Clearly.
And maybe I'll pay attention to summer and fall, but for now, I knew what I knew. I voted for that. So a lot of this was either Stockholm Syndrome or laziness. But I say to that, one, quickly shame on you for not doing your due diligence to really flesh out and know who was on the ballot, and, do better. I haven't heard anything from black voters that was anti-Mamdani. I haven't heard that. I haven't heard that. It was all either laziness or Stockholm Syndrome. Like, I know what I know. You know what I'm saying? But I hope this summer into the fall, Mamdani uses this as an opportunity to ingratiate himself with black voters. And supposedly he did with some black voters out in Brooklyn, like he would go to their doors and stuff like that. But I hope he continues to build on that because I think he'll need them, or he may need them. And I also think that it's an opportunity to do what Bernie missed. When Bernie lost in 2016, part of his issue, and I had black voters who I know, friends of mine from South Carolina, I think about somebody, other places. They told me Bernie was non-existent with us, or he had a tough time communicating to us. And people, unfortunately, no matter what group you're part of, or demo you're part of, people will always look at, how do you talk to me first? Even if I know what you're saying for that person will trickle down to me or vice versa, I want to be spoken to. I want to be told, your hair looks nice.
Mike, Kamala gets criticized for that same thing. Remember, the fact that she didn't do these tech bro podcasts like Joe Rogan, Flagrant, Theo Vaughn, whatever. They all criticized, and that's why they ended up endorsing Trump. But anyways, I will say something like, the black population in this city is decreasing. A lot of it has to do with affordability.
So that's what you spoke
to. And also, a lot of the remaining black population here is elderly. A lot of it is seniors. We live in the Northeast Bronx. So the Northeast Bronx, because most people don't really understand the Bronx, because they think that the Bronx is Afghanistan or something. No. The Northeast Bronx is predominantly Black, Caribbean, a lot of homeowners because there's a lot of houses here. And you have a lot of working class, but also middle income here, So that to see that base root for Mamdani was interesting. Root for Cuomo was interesting because I feel like, man, a lot of black people are leaving the city due to affordability, but yet you will not support the candidate that is literally here and addressing the lack of affordability, which is the number one issue in the city, to be honest with you. But I also want to talk about my Latinos. Even though Latinos, they did lean towards Mamdani, I think that a lot of it has to do with that there is a strong presence online from Mamdani, and I think that really helped him with Latinos. He definitely leaned into going with a lot of the leaders that are in our communities. Like I know he really linked up with Carmen de la Rosa uptown, the Mami Chula Social Club, shout out to Ya, to really get those votes from uptown, and that's why he won uptown, Mamdani. But I'm going to tell something. I want to explain something to people that are not Latinos that are listening in right now. This is what I want you to understand about Latinos. Most Latinos
eat tacos. No play.
Nothing wrong with tacos. I love tacos. And by the way, I'm not one of those Latinos that gets offended. Like when I'm called, like, "Oh, you're Mexican, you're Puerto Rican." Like, okay, thank you. That's actually a compliment. But most Latinos come from very conservative countries.
Shoot, not just Latinos.
And also remember that there is also on top of that, add the religious aspect, which is, people don't understand. Outside of Vatican City, Mexico is the most Catholic country in the world. Okay, and Mexico, and I'm specifically highlighting Mexico because it is the largest Latin American country. I mean, well, Spanish-speaking Latin American country, because Brazil is the biggest Latin American country. Right. But with that being said, I want you to understand something about Latinos, right? And then on top of that, you're also going to add machismo. A lot of this, is spearheaded by a lot of machismo, a lot of colorism, clearly. Anti-Black sentiment. It is there, right? And I want people to understand that's of course that exists in Latin America, but that also exists in other aspects of the world. Like we see that in Asia, right? But I'm going to tell Latinos something, especially young Latinos. No te lleve mucho de mami papi. Don't take mom and dad's like experience to heart, and I'm going to tell you why. It's ironic that many Latin Americans immigrate to the US in search of economic opportunities denied to them in their home countries due to political corruption. Yet so many continue to support the same political ideologies or systems that contributed to those conditions. So understand that a lot of people leave because they were in economic disparity, right? And a lot of the economic disparity that's happening in our countries has to do with political corruption. And then we come here and bring those same ideologies. And listen, I'm Dominican, you already know. But like, a lot of the Dominicans, man, it's really become like disheartening to watch a lot of people just continue to recycle ignorance and the same talking points. And it almost feels like if you don't think this way, you're not a real Dominican. Well, I guess I'll be a non-Dominican. I guess I'll be a non-real Dominican.
I wonder what that means, though, as far as give me an example.
But this is the thing: a lot of them are still in denial. It is rooted in anti-Black sentiment, and that's the problem. That they hate when you say that. Oh, you're saying this woke thing, this woke stuff. But it is. Like, why are we in denial about that?
Are you talking about Dominicans true to the country or Dominican Americans?
Both. Because and not for nothing, a lot of Dominican men, oh my God. Honestly, it's very rare to find a Dominican man that's like, number one, is very, very well studied and educated, but two, is leaning progressive, or even center left. A lot of Dominican men are straight up like, I identify with MAGA, I identify with Republicanism. No, like it's part of their identity now, because they feel like if you think like a progressive, you are a wimp.
Right, it's very alpha, quote unquote alpha based.
Seemingly alpha, because that's not alpha.
You said that you mentioned the other day how there's been like a social reckoning as far as dating wise, where Dominican women are not. It's getting harder and harder for Dominican women to connect with
Dominican men. Okay, so my friend Roz and I were having a conversation about this. She's like, have you noticed
Shout out to Luna Jars.
Shout out to Luna Jars. Please support your small local businesses. She sells great candles, lotions, body butters. But I was gonna say, we were talking about the fact that a lot of Dominican women are dating and marrying outside of Dominican men. Like she was pointing out, like me, you, da, 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 like a lot of women we know have branched out. And the Dominican women that I know for a fact are with Dominican men is because they got together when they were very young. Like I'm talking about high school and college. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that a lot of Dominican women, modern Dominican women, are not gonna put up with a lot of the things that come with dating Dominican men. And I'm not trying to rag Dominican men. I'm not. Listen, I think my brother's a great guy. I think my brother, and he's a very dedicated father, very dedicated boyfriend.
Shout out to him.
Shout out to my brother. And he's been with his lady for like 10 years or plus. So it's not to rag on no Dominican men, but I think that when we see the type of mentality and the things that you align yourself with, we kind of be like, nah, I'm not dealing with that shit. And it must be harder, especially also for Black women, I think, to date. Because Black women usually are the most progressive, right? And we're seeing a lot of men are just attaching themselves to ideologies that are completely go against what we think. Now, do you believe that you can date somebody that did not was on the very contrast of what you believe in politically?
That's the whole James Carville thing, where he's a staunch Louisiana Democrat, but his wife is a Republican conservative. Could I be like that? I doubt it. I think our ideologies have to be somewhat aligned, just so we can connect, because connection comes from shared common interests on a few things. So I probably couldn't. But before I get into that, let me ask you. You said a whole lot. I want to respond to a few things, or I want to inquire about a few things. You kind of illustrated a somewhat present modern day disconnect between some Dominican men and some Dominican women, or vice versa. If both Dominican women and men are being raised in the same similar households, where is the disconnect happening?
The disconnect is happening with our parents. The way we raise our daughters different than our. Oh my God, are you crazy? There's a saying that I saw Michelle Obama talk about. Mothers raise their daughters, but they love their sons. And that's pretty much it.
Mothers raise their daughters but love their sons. I can see that. And I can see that across cultural lines, not just in Dominican households or Latino households. You've seen it in Black American households somewhat. You've seen it in Black Caribbean households and Black African households, definitely. But what I would say is that I agree with you about how there is a split. There's this thing called now the manosphere, where it's the proliferation of super alpha, I do air quotes if you're listening, super alpha air quotes, culture of like, what are those nerds called? Or they sit down, Myron.
Oh God.
Fresh and Fish. Shout out to Alba.
We don't even this. Oh
no, we don't. But we do. But we should acknowledge that these platforms exist. The Fresh and Fish, the Andrew Tates, the Paul brothers, all these people, all these men who are trying to preach the idea that me first, you third. You know what I'm saying? Like women last, men first, and they're not collaborative. They're conquering. That's their mentality. They want to conquer you. They don't want to collaborate with women. They want to conquer women.
And we do know that a lot of this is also a grift, because they know that there is an audience out there of like lonely men that don't know how to really socialize with women, and they know, okay, let me pander to them, make the money.
Even some women are pandering to it. There's that white woman? I forgot her name.
There's always a pygmisha.
I forgot her name, but she's always going in on women about men, and she feeds into that whole manosphere. But yeah, it's a culture now that has been cultivating into the political sphere, where men are starting to vote right, largely based off these shared ideals of how men are more important than women. You're seeing a lot of men angst, and unfortunately, there's a divide, because there are some men out there that are saying, "Hey, listen, I ain't crazy, but I do feel like sometimes I'm underappreciated as a man, and this is why." And they're getting drowned out by nonsensical sexist misogyny that's out there with this deep manosphere state this is toxic, it's nasty. So that's bleeding into the political world. It's bleeding into our daily lives. It's bleeding to how we connect with women, as Kia's pointing out, how she said with Roz, how like they're seeing a disconnect between men and women dating in Dominican culture. And I think we're only getting more divided. So I think it's playing out more through politics. If you look at the voting numbers, at the people who voted for Trump last time, especially the men. So yeah, it's crazy. Now back to your question. No, short answer, no.
Now, the reason why I'm having this conversation with Mike particularly is not because I can't have it with Kelly, but Mike has opinions, and he is not indifferent. And, I feel like you can articulate yourself and know enough about a lot of things that we can carry this conversation a lot longer. And I appreciate that. But more importantly, I want people to see that there are a lot of Black men that think progressively, that are not down with a lot of the bullshit that's fed online. Like, for example, a lot of rappers have supported the right wing movement as of late. I see a lot of banter on Twitter, which is just a cesspool at this point, right? A lot of Black men on Twitter, like, saying things that are definitely like non-progressive, and I'll say that. But I want people to know that no matter what you see online, and that's our baby right there, that's Charlie Barley. Oh, girl. No matter what you see, that there was still an overwhelming amount of support by Black men in the last election, and don't fall for a lot of the stuff that you see. Or wait, hold on, let me block her. There's a lot of things that you're gonna see that you don't see, or they don't want you to see. But obviously, my husband is a special education middle school teacher, so he reads here and there. I'll just say that he reads. He knows a little bit of things. But I do want to say something else. While my husband had to get up and take care of Charlie while I'm talking, a big reason for Mamdani's victory is what's happening with Trump right now. This is what I mean. A lot of the pendulum, whenever it sinks to the extreme, then it's time for it to swing the other way. A lot of the things that Trump is doing right now is really getting people riled up and upset. Even people in his own party that supported him are now, publicly stating, I regret voting for him. One of those people is Candace Owens. I am here to tell you I'm not a fan of her. I've never been a fan of her. I think she is a panderer. She is a grifter. And yeah, she's educated and well-spoken and all that bullshit. But don't get it twisted. She is, in my opinion, she's anti-Black. And Candace Owens. Now, recently, she's been going on different podcasts. Like, I know she just did Piers Morgan recently. And I think she did Tucker Carlson. And she is completely like anti what's going on in Israel, and she's very pro-Palestine, which I'm also pro-Palestine, right? But in my case, some of it with her has to do with anti-Semitism. Not to say that people that are pro-Palestine are anti-Semitic. Not at all. I don't believe that. People need to separate the difference between being, supporting Jewish people and supporting Israel. I don't support Israel. I don't support Israel, and I don't support the action of what they're doing. All right. But I'm also not gonna jump on the bandwagon of like, oh, Jewish people are evil. None of that. I'm not gonna support that either. But she is on the low. She is, because let me tell you something. People forget she supports Kanye West when he was going on that rant about the Jewish. She supports him.
You're right.
Okay.
You're right about that.
So there is an agenda with her, but she's just not gonna. She's smart enough to know I can't be blatant about it. Right. But Tucker Carlson is another person that's been outspoken against Donald Trump right now.
He had that blip against. He had that interview with Ted Cruz where he challenged Ted Cruz on Ted Cruz supported Israel and our country supported Israel as a regime. He pushed back on Ted Cruz on a bunch of topics about Israel. There's been a MAGA divide, civil war, you would say, almost, where some people are just not rocking with Trump's support of Israel. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I can't stand her either. She's another one.
You meant the aforementioned Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens. And there's more. And away from MAGA, even not just MAGA, but Republican-wide, you're seeing a divide. Thomas Massey.
Yeah, I was going to say Representative Thomas Massey, who, by the way, Candace Owens said on one of the interviews that she would like to see him run for president the next election.
Before you continue, real quick, I have a pet peeve about all this divide. The divide, have at it. You should be human beings and have divides. And I'm with coffee and I'm with tea and crumpets watching them argue about Israel. It's entertaining to me. But there's a comedian named Dave Smith. He be on Joe Rogan a lot. He's a libertarian. He's always calling out every corrupt president and every corrupt official. But he voted for Trump and he supported Trump. And his big thing was like, I'm supporting Trump because Trump is a no war president. He's a no war president. No war president. I want a no war president. Now
how you looking now?
And Dave Smith, whatever his name is, he's Dave. 6 months. Dave Smith. He has been very anti-Israel regime. He's very pro-Palestine, but he still voted for Trump. Now, in the last few weeks, especially with the whole bombing, I made a mistake. I fully acknowledge
it's
that.
It's facetious. I don't want to hear it because you know, if you read Project 2025, you didn't even have to read it. All you need to do was put it into ChatGPT and tell ChatGPT summarize it, and they would have given you the major.
So my pet peeve is whether it's the libertarians who are saying, "Oh my God, I made a mistake. I thought it was no war." Whether it's MAGA who's realizing that, like, "Oh no, we do support Israel," and that's not right. I don't agree with that. Or whether it's immigrants. Shout out to my Cubans, my Venezuelans.
Woo! I will.
My Hispanic immigrants. To anyone who voted for Trump, saying he makes me feel proud and he won't deport me. I'm a good immigrant. I don't have a record. He won't deport me.
Y'all eating crow right now.
He'll only go after
the others,
the criminals. The criminals, not me. Well. Now you're crying.
I don't mean to laugh.
Now you are crying. I'm not crying. I'm not laughing at you. But now you are crying on Univision. Now you are crying on Telemundo. Now you are, you like my accent, Telemundo. Now you are crying because you realize you paid for the wrong party. You bought something they shouldn't have bought. And it's too late.
And no, and not just that, but Mike, it shows how gullible you are because this man has a track history of being perfidious, a person that is not untrustworthy. He's shown you time and time again, how could you be that gullible? This man is now making more money more than ever being president. Like his family are becoming billionaires as we speak.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why are we allowed? Why? Okay, and this is my thing with people. Why are you okay with that? Like a person that's supposed to serve the people is not supposed to use his position of power to then stuff his pockets. That should be, honestly, to me, that's un-American. To me, that shows that you can be bought. And this person, you know what it is, Mike? Enough people haven't dated a hoe. Mike, have you ever dated a hoe? Or like kind of have feelings for a hoe, like a real hoe? This is what I mean. If you've ever dated a hoe, yo, hoes are charming because they're gonna make you believe. They're gonna make you believe, like, nah, I'm changing. I'm giving it a look. Oh, for you, like you crazy. You the one. Like I like you. You make me feel good. You make me feel like you understand me. I'm gonna give up.
A stripper. I don't know call her a hoe. She was a stripper. People can run game.
But a hoe is gonna be a hoe. A hoe is gonna be a hoe.
Personal note. I'm glad you said that because on a personal note, our daughter Lauren. She and another friend were dealing with. She and another friend of hers were dealing with another bully yesterday, and that friend of hers was crying profusely. Since we're using P words, profusely. Look that shit up. She was crying profusely about an exchange that she had with a third party friend, but that third party is not who you think it is. Another person. That person had just gotten their phone back and their iPad back that day because school was out. So it showed how she couldn't have it for the last few months because she'd be wilding. With that being said, I guess on the first night back, she was back in shenanigans. Lauren's main squeeze friend was crying about it, and I said, "Yo, I'm sorry," and we talked about it. But I also told her, "Listen, you ever heard the story about the frog and the scorpion? There's a river, and a scorpion wants to get from one side of the river to the other side. A frog is naturally swimming in the river, and the scorpion says, 'Hey, can you give me a ride? Can you give me a lift?' And the frog says, okay, but are you going to sting me with that shiny, sharp thing on your back? Are you going to sting me? Nah, I ain't going to sting you. Come on, man. I gotta get from one spot to another. And plus, if I sting you, we'll both drown. We'll both drown. Don't worry. I got you. The frog said, okay, I trust you. I guess. Cool. And the frog is swimming mid-river. What does the scorpion do? Stung him. And as the frog is drowning with the scorpion, bro, why'd you sting me? We're both gonna die. And Scorpion says, I'm sorry, it's just in my nature.
And with that being said, that's what Trump represents.
Exactly.
And so all the
this
people.
This is my TED Talk, by the way.
Thank you so much. That was the first time I had ever heard that story. When you told me that story the other day, I was like, oh, I never heard about the story about the frog and the scorpion. But I want to say something.
Reading Rainbow, niggas, reading Rainbow.
That's the problem. People ain't reading. They ain't reading. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But Mike, I don't want to hear people take back their votes. Like, no. Stick to what you need to worry about is not regretting your vote. It's understanding the psychology behind why you thought that was the correct option. And I want to say something to the Republicans in New York City, the MAGA people, or the newfound MAGA people, because there's a lot of new Republicans in New York City now. But you want to know something? I'm going to tell you, Andrew Cuomo would have actually been the best candidate for you. You know why? Because he would have aligned perfectly with your values. But a lot of you were also ragging on Cuomo, right? So my question is, who are you going to support in the November mayoral election? Because this is my problem with a lot of y'all. A lot of y'all are just contrarians. It is very easy to sit and watch from the stands in the audience and criticize all the Democratic candidates. But you guys never bring forth a formidable candidate. It's not Curtis Lewa. It's not Curtis Lewa. You won't even align yourselves with seeming Democrats. I don't think they're real Democrats, but seeming Democrats that are more center or center right. So then what is it? What do you want? And also, I want to tell people, if you do not live in New York City, if you do not live within the 5 boroughs, please stop commenting on the state of New York City. Oh my God, New York City is a zoo. It's Afghanistan, all that crime. First of all, crime is down. Crime is drastically down. All of this hyperbole about how the subway is and how much crime there is and all the shooting. Listen, as a New Yorker that's outside, it is not like that. The media wants you to think one way so that they can then sway you to vote a specific way.
Right, so it's all propaganda.
And it's blatant now. It's blatant.
It's propaganda.
I haven't seen, Mike, I have never seen a primary be covered this much on the media.
I mean, people of all walks of life, including poor people, freak out when a candidate advocates for poor people.
That's a fact. Or not even poor, but also just working class.
Working class. God forbid the higher ups have to pay a fair share of taxes.
And he's only saying, let's match Jersey. Yeah. It's a 2% increase.
There's people out there who feel like rich folks, wealthy folks should be given the most breaks because what they'll do will trickle down and help us.
The trickle down effect does not work. Do your research. Like, I'm tired of this. I feel like I had to come on here and give a dissertation about why the trickle down effect doesn't work. And it's been shown not to work.
Yeah, I've never seen trickle down economics work effectively on a big scale.
Like, that's the dream that Reagan sold you back in the 80s. Like, it's not happening, bro.
Maybe like in a small town of finding people, Mr. Harris owned a shoe factory and we all work there and that helps. But like on a major scale,
no.
With that being said, one of the last impressions I want to leave y'all with is no matter how you feel about this election cycle, no matter how you feel about no matter how you feel about what happened on Tuesday. And I want to say, stop with the hypocrisy. And what I mean by that is, I was told, and I've been told, that when Trump won, or when an unfavorable candidate wins, I eventually have to come to terms with it. I have to listen to the electorate and listen to the voters and the constituents who elected him or her, make do with it, And also be curious to say, well, why did they vote for that person in the first place? Let me tap into them, at least understand them. Let me comprehend them. Let me not just fight with them. Let me listen to them with reason. Maybe disagree at the end of the day, but let me at least hear them out. Let me not just write them off. I've been told that. I've been instructed that. There's people who are on the left wing who said vote blue no matter who, and now they're going back on their word. All right. So there's a lot of hypocrisy going on because that's how polarizing Mamdani is. People do not want to listen to reason. They don't want to listen to the constituents. They say, young voters, come out and vote. Young voters, come out and vote. And when the young voters came out, they don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they're talking about. They want a utopia. They're not reasonable. But why are you asking young voters to speak their mind? And when they do, you shut them down in the aftermath. You're pushing them away. You know what I'm saying? You have to listen. You have to understand that maybe, just maybe, your ideas are outdated. Maybe you are analog and it's a digital world now.
And also, let me just run because I don't think we've talked about this, but Mamdani, I have to get used to saying Mamdani. He ran on these particular issues. Number one, Zoran will lower costs and make life easier, making the city more affordable, right? So he intends to freeze the rent, fast, fare, free buses. He's talking about the Department of Community Safety. He wants New Yorkers to deserve to be safe, no cost childcare. He wants to have city-owned grocery stores.
Not an abundance. I think like 5 one each borough.
And he wants to create a lot more affordable housing. He wants to crack down on bad landlords. And he wants to tax big corporations and the wealthiest New Yorkers. I agree with a lot of those things. Now, of course, is he going to be able to do everything? Not by himself, but I don't think it hurts to freaking try. Why is it so ludicrous to think like that, right? Ludicrous, right? And also, I want to say something. I saw something. Oh, Brooklyn. A studio in Brooklyn in 2010, the average was about $1,100. In 2025, that same studio apartment is over $3,000. There is no reason why that margin of a markup is that high in such a short amount of time. We're talking about 15 years later. We're not talking about 50 years later.
Yeah.
So, and a lot of that has happened, Mike. A lot of that has happened because Mayor Adams has allowed the commission of the rent guidelines and the rent stabilization to allow a hike on the percentage on the rent.
Right. I remember that.
So Adams, you also got to get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
My brother just left New York City because he was like, yo, Kia, I couldn't find anything that was affordable. I have, he has a girl and two kids. And he's like, yo, I can't find an apartment. It's impossible. He needs a 2-bedroom. And the most affordable 2-bedroom that he's seen is like $2,600. That is insane. And mind you, that's in the Bronx, in the hood. Not even on a nice part.
According to a mayoral candidate, Zoran Mamdani, who I also ranked too low, but I ranked him. He has some statistics that said for Black New Yorkers, the median total wealth is $2,800.
$800
compared to $320,000 for white New Yorkers. That is an 11,328.6% disparity. 28%, 28.6%.
And yet, Black voters overwhelmingly voted for Cuomo.
Stockholm syndrome. With that being said, I think there's a couple learning lessons here. Listen to your constituents. Listen to your voters. They want what they want. That's one. Two, it's not about ageism. It's about fight. Fighters are going to get people to react to them. Either you're a fighter or you're a folder. Cuomo's a folder. He's not a fighter. Mamdani was out here fighting on the front lines. I think he was even arrested once. He's been out here. Even his homie Brad Lander was recently arrested over immigration law. Either you're a fighter or a folder. Also, there is a changing of the tide. There's
a change. That's the real message.
There's a changing of the tide. You know what I'm saying? There's a changing of the tide, a changing of the guard. Outdated ideas are starting to die off.
And I think also and this is why being a centrist, like honestly, being a centrist is really, if we lived in a homogenous, like equal society, being a centrist is actually the best option. But because we don't live in that equal society, and because we're not in a homogenous society, right? People are going a lot more left, and they're being deemed radical only because they're fighting for things that they feel like everyone should have, not just the few. And the fact that I see broke ass people go ahead and advocate and support the people that are the reason why they are where they are is the most astonishing thing, you know? So with that being said, is there anything else we want to contribute? Because we already have over an hour and 20 minutes talking about politics. Do you want to change the subject or?
Well, I mean, we spoke a little bit on social stuff with, the whole Rosne conversation. There's nothing really else to say. I just want to say real quick, I don't agree with some fun stuff. I don't agree with dimming other people's light to shine yours, Jim Jones. I don't agree with I gotta clean up your mess if you try to down me, Dame Dash. You know what I'm saying? And I also want to say that it's time for people to put the Jordan box down, the PS5 down.
People of a certain age.
Of a certain age. Honestly, you say that, but this other day, I was talking to some OG. He's like 10 years older than me, and we were talking about how, like, maybe not, maybe young people too. Bobby Seale, Huey Newton, were in their late teens starting to black at the party. My man in Chicago, Fred Hampton, he died at 21. He died at 21. So how old was he when he first said, "I gotta get up off the couch"?
That was a different time. They were motivated differently.
To your earlier points about, I think what happened is the times make us, and the time we're in today is the time of pacification. As long as we are entertained, as long as Netflix entertains us, as long as 2K entertains us, as long as the Kardashians entertain us, we are blinded by what we're supposed to be doing.
Correct. Distracted.
Distracted. Shooting each other over Jordans, that's distracting.
I don't think that happens as much now. I think that we're really people need to take their civic duty more seriously. So many of us complain about gentrification, but we also, this is how we grow up in the day, right? Back in the day, right? Yo, I can't wait to get money so I can get out the hood. Then you go and take your money and move to the suburbs. Then you get mad when you go back to go visit mommy and it's like, oh shit, everything changed. Like, oh shit, this shit looks crazy. Well, yeah, because you didn't invest in your neighborhood. What you decided to do was, but a lot of people do, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but you decided to take your talent and your money somewhere else and invest it somewhere where you felt you would have more comfort instead of staying and fighting and deciding to bring that comfort and those same commodities to your neighborhood. One of the reasons why we live in New York City is because obviously we didn't want to have a long commute going to work since we both work in the city. But also it's like, yo, we could stay here and still make an impact in our communities. Like, why do we have to move to Connecticut? Why do we need to move to Rockland County, Dutchess County? Or why do we need to move to Jersey and then commute every single day into the city when we could just live here and make this a better place for everybody?
I agree. Well said.
And not for nothing. People don't want to hear that. People don't want to hear about, well, what are you doing to contribute to your community? We both are doing a lot in our community to make sure that we have a good quality of life.
People like to say the old phrase, it takes a village to raise a child.
But they don't want to be part of the village. And we're not raised with the village mentality. Yeah. Everything is all about individualization.
Individualism.
So when I tell people are like, oh, Kia, you're a woke lefty. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
No, you're an oligarch supporter.
No, you don't understand. I'm like, what the original human beings, what they were doing, a hunter-gatherer, a village, that's what I am. Yeah. I'm not conditioned because I'm very well aware that we are in a created, fabricated system that is created so that only a certain amount of people could get a certain amount of resources and everybody else suffers. I don't come from that. I already see the system as fabricated, right?
Someone say a matrix.
This is a matrix. And not for nothing, that's why I support a lot of people also that leave the country. One of our homegirls that listens in, like Dama, she left to DR. She said, F it, I'm gonna go and live and be in DR. And so many people are immigrating. So many Americans are immigrating to other countries. But with that being said, I'm just saying I'm here, I'm staying, and I'm fighting.
Yeah, because you're communal.
Exactly.
You're communal. And
because that's in my nature.
And if you're communal, that initially means you are sharing. You're of sharing nature. Not everybody's of sharing nature. A lot of people are individualists,
correct,
into individualism,
and they're takers.
And I would say, you know what? That's your God-given right to be that way. Mm-hmm. But don't argue with me about certain social services in the aftermath. If you're individual, then be that through and through.
Yo,
pay out of pocket for Medicare.
Not to put people on blast, but I saw somebody that is a hardcore MAGA Trump supporter, and she even the app went a thumbs down.
Even AI is
yo, and she put up a GoFundMe because she needed help for one of her pets. And I'm just like, look at that. Look at a Republican asking for a handout. I guess you do need community, don't you? I guess you do.
Well, with that being said, that is the let's wrap up this cross-pollination.
Yeah, we're gonna because we did a lot of political talk, and I think we should keep it that way for now. Yeah. You're hungry? What you? I'm a cook.
No, I want some breakfast. I want some.
So what do you want for breakfast?
I want some.
You want eggs? Okay, I'll make you some eggs.
Some avocado too.
Because I'm gonna make. But you know what? I'm gonna make you breakfast, and then I'm gonna start working on lunch soon because it's about to be lunchtime.
All right. Well, on that note, until next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in on this episode. I'll talk that talk and
the break room.
And thank you for all the people. Please like and subscribe.
Yes.
If you have any questions, please hit us up. We're on Instagram. Mike, what's your Instagram?
TTI Michelle 85. TIMICHEL 85.
And you already know me, Kia for Reals on Instagram.
All right.
All right, guys. Peace out.
Peace out. Y'all be safe.